Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of voice recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to This Week in D&D, where I break down the news surrounding Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and the tabletop RPG industry. This is the week of May 8th, 2025. I want to make sure to actually say what the fuck week it is so that people just listening maybe don't get the full thumbnail experience, don't have any confusion when I start talking about what's going on, which we're going to start with a bit of a bummer. So I think this news actually hit right at the beginning of last week's stream. I think that's when we had a whole bunch of just bad news hitting in games journalism, which was literally all in 1 week last week. We had Giant Bomb was basically dismantled. You can just Google that. And Polygon was the company that owns Polygon, Vox Media, was acquired by Valnet, and this is widely considered to be a horrible thing because most of the writing staff got laid off, and Valnet is kind of a bottom scraping content mill that just churns out like the basic slop that I think a lot of people complain about. New age journalism and everything, where it's just all about like the search engine optimization and all about the clicks and the headline grabby stuff. And that is what Valnet's whole deal is. Basically, they have Game Rant, they have Screen Rant, they have Come Up With Resources, I believe, is a couple different websites that they own and basically churn this stuff out. So there's an official press release about that, but really the best way to get it is through, and by the way, the CEO and founder of Valnet also made their initial riches, I believe, through porn. So take from that what you will. There's a really good article about it on Kotaku, which is probably at this point one of the last big gaming websites, I think, that actually has like real people with opinions and stuff talking. And I mean, this shit really hits me pretty hard because I hitched my wagon to game journalism as a career over a decade ago. I started back in 2013, I believe, and just became freelance basically. But I've written for Polygon over the years. I've written for like Dicebreaker was an amazing website that specifically just did like tabletop RPGs and stuff, and I contributed to them and loved that website. That one has since been dismantled. Like it's really depressing for the state of the industry, and I think a lot of folks who are smarter and more experienced than I am are even looking at it going, pretty much the future is in individual creators doing their stuff on like Patreon and YouTube and stuff. Like it just seems really hard to get actual hard-hitting, like personality-driven stuff on these major gaming websites. And it's interesting that people thought this might happen like 10 years ago, when video started becoming a big thing, and then you had the whole big Gamergate scandal, which just was a fucking canary in the coal mine for the entire right wing of politics that we're in now. But it didn't really happen then. It was just, I don't know. I feel like gaming was in a really good place back then, but now it's in a bad place. It's in a really bad place right now. So this has me very bummed. And Polygon covered a lot of, it wasn't just video games. A lot of these gaming websites obviously cover tabletop RPGs and especially Dungeons and Dragons. And specifically Charlie Hall, who was basically the tabletop board game miniature person at Polygon, was absolutely incredible and put out some just amazing stuff. And now he's out of a job, I believe. Yeah, a former editor. First tabletop editor named to a major media publication in the U.S. is what he says on his Blue Sky profile. I'm no longer with Polygon. This is Charlie Hall at Blue Sky. I'm no longer with Polygon, my home for nearly 13 years. Proud of what my colleagues and I have accomplished over that period. I'm especially proud of the role that the Vox Media Union played in it all. Organized now, I am immediately available for hire. That fucking sucks. Big time, and I need all of you to be aware of that. I need you to share in my grief and despair. Late executive editor Chelsea Stark said the layoffs included over 20 staff. Vox Media did not immediately respond to a request for comment. They've been around since 2012, which is actually earlier than I thought. I thought that was a little bit later than that. I remember when Polygon became a thing, though, and I was very impressed with the website design, and they were just pure, like, modern, basically game journalism. And I absolutely love that website. I loved reading all their stuff and their coverage and everything they did. And it's extremely upsetting that they're technically not dead. But given that they were acquired by a company that I have and many folks in the industry have very little faith for, and most of their staff, I say most, I'm not actually sure how big their staff was, but a lot of their editorial staff was laid off. That obviously does not, and it's presumably now they'll be hiring on, the problem with a lot of these, like the Screen Rant and Game Rant folks, is that they basically rely on very cheap freelance labor, which, undervalues my industry, basically, like what I try to do. And, like paying like $20 for like 1,000-word article or something is fucking ridiculous, especially in the last couple of years where the cost of living has, risen incrementally. So all of this is very, very upsetting. But read the Kotaku article. It's got a really good piece about Polygon going down. I won't even get into the giant bomb thing. That's also very upsetting. And both of these were like over 10-year-old, websites and really institutions within this space. So I don't have a good anything good to say about it other than try to follow all of these people individually. Hopefully there's stuff on maybe the socials that has like following PAX and stuff. There's a GoFundMe, okay, which is also depressing, for the Vox Media Union, which I think they only just recently unionized in like the last couple of years, and that was a big win for them, but clearly does not save you from your company just absolutely selling to somebody else. So I won't dwell on it too long, but it sucks, and I'm upset about it, and also from a personal standpoint. I'm not just saying this from like, oh man, this is really bad from a news standpoint, but like I said, I've written and worked with a lot of these folks, and it's a huge bummer because they did great work there. All right, moving on to the main story we have for this week in D&D, which is the Unearthed Arcana put out a bunch of new subclasses. I don't think it's quite one for each class, but it's almost one. Basically, a lot of the subclasses that had been in previous extra books, like Xanathar's and Tasha's, and I think a few new ones, new subclasses for the Artificer and Ranger, are being updated for the 2024 handbook, which is funny because we still technically don't have the official Artificer yet, although if you recall, they were available within the Unearthed Arcana, which I believe I covered here on the channel whenever they did the Artificer for 2024 rules. So now we're getting another subclass for that. And then the Artificer will officially arrive in D&D 2024 later this year via the Eberron book that is coming in, I want to say, August. I think it's coming out after Dragon Delves, which is coming out soon, and then I think Eberron will be actually pretty soon after that. So, and that's going to be just, I think, a settings book, but will include the Artificer class updated for 2024 rules, which unfortunately is just going to miss, I believe, the start of my which is fine because I think we wanted to start with just the 2024 Player's Handbook anyway. So that would technically be the first the first expansion or whatever splat book, whatever you want to call it, for the 2024 content. There is a video now. Unfortunately, it's going to be, I believe, our first video sans Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins, which I already missed those guys. It's a 20-minute long video. I guess we can watch the little beginning blurb of it, but I think they just go over the new subclasses.
Very exciting Unearthed Arcana we are talking about, and also just a reminder of the feedback that we already got.
Yes, so we have gotten the survey results from both the Cartographer and the Artificer Revised surveys, as well as the survey about the Forgotten Realms subclasses. Again, we always really appreciate your feedback. It is always super, super helpful and influential. We were really excited to see the wide swath of feedback we got. It really helped shape things, and we were really excited to show you the final versions when they come out in their respective books later on this year.
We have a very horror-themed Unearthed Arcana for everyone at home. What's top of the list?
So, top of the list is actually a new subclass for the Artificer.
Okay, so now... Oh, that's a bad freeze frame. I don't think we need to go over the individual stuff on here, but I don't know why we're doing horror in May. My thoughts, and a lot of people's thoughts, I think, are that because this is hitting Unearthed Arcana now, maybe we'll get an actual horror-themed book this fall. Because I'm no marketing expert necessarily, but if I were going to do a horror-themed anything, I would wait until the fall to do it. But this is Unearthed Arcana, which is specifically like playtest stuff that's basically in beta, right? Early access. So maybe if it's hitting now, then that would line up with the fall. Because I'm trying to think of like when did the Unearthed Arcana for Artificer hit versus when is it launching? How many? In other words, how many months do we usually get between releases? I'm not sure about that, but it could line up that maybe in September or something. Maybe we'll see a horror. They haven't announced anything yet, as far as I'm aware, in terms of a new like maybe Ravenloft settings book or something. I think would go off pretty well, or some kind of maybe new version of Van Richten's, perhaps. But right now, this Unearthed Arcana includes, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different subclasses, 2 of which are brand new. The others are all updated from other books. So if we can... I've got it pulled up right now with the digital PDF with the Unearthed Arcana. I've only glanced through this. I don't know if any of you have seen this. Just came out this week with the subclass stuff, which I haven't used. I've never allowed Unearthed Arcana stuff at my table because it's in like playtest early. If I was playing so much D&D that we were like just desperate to play anything new, then I could see allowing Unearthed Arcana stuff. And usually we don't see a whole, like by the time it makes Unearthed Arcana, I don't think we see a whole lot of dramatic changes. I think it's a little bit of balanced stuff, like tweaks here and there before it makes it into like the official publication. So I'm curious if any of you have used or even allowed Unearthed Arcana stuff, but it is useful just to see like where the design philosophy is and basically like what's coming. Probably the most exciting one on here, which is I think they just mentioned in the video, was the new subclass for Artificer, which I'm trying to think. I don't recall that we got any new Artificer subclasses once it did its initial release. Is that true? Because the Artificer came with the 3 subclasses. So I'm saying 100% a book for Ravenloft. Yeah. I'm trying to think if they did any more. We've got 3 or 4 subclasses when it released, and then did we get anything after that? I don't recall if we did or not, but this is exciting because we get a new one, and you get to be a mobile Frankenstein's. Well, I guess you are Dr. Frankenstein, right? I'm trying to think of the Frankenstein's monster is the monster, but then if you are the reanimator, then you are Dr. Frankenstein. So yeah, it's the Artificer Reanimator. You reassemble corpses to raise the dead. So you get a lot of necromancy-themed spells. I love that you get Lightning Bolt and Animate Dead together. That seems very appropriate. When you cast Spare the Dying, you can modify the spell so it sends a jolt of electricity through the target, revivifying it. I do kind of hate that word. It makes me feel like I'm stuttering. Target regains a hit point in each creature in a 10-foot emanation. Makes a dex save or takes lightning damage. So you just do a more fancy Spare the Dying, I guess. That's a fun way of modifying a cantrip that not many people use. Reanimated Companion. Using Tinker's tools to create a reanimated companion. See the stat block with the power of necromancy and science. Yes. Let's see. You can determine the companion's appearance. Your choices don't affect the companion's game statistics. Let's see. What are the game statistics? It can explode when it dies, like a Mephit. Corpse explosion. DC equals your spell save. Each creature in a 10-foot emanation for 2d6 necrotic damage. Boy, so your team does not want to be near this thing either. Because the hit points are low. 4 plus 4 times your Artificer level. So it's like a d4 of hit points. So this is designed to die and explode, because that's kind of awesome. How many times can you raise it? It lasts until you finish a long rest, or until you take a magic action to dismiss it early, at which point it harmlessly collapses into a pile of viscera. Immediately drops to 0 hit points and dies, triggering its Death Burst trait if you die. That's a pretty funny consequence of you dying. Can't do so again until you finish a long rest or expend a spell slot to create one. Okay. That's not bad. Does it just take any spell slot? Companion acts during your turn. It can move and take its reaction, but the only action it takes is the dodge action unless you take a bonus action, companion take an action, which is pretty standard, I think, going forward, which seems pretty well balanced. Basically, it takes a bonus action to control your ally. Lightning Absorption, which is very Flesh Golem-y, right? So basically we're getting like a low-powered Flesh Golem, but it doesn't have the Berserk trait either. Whenever the companion is subjected to lightning damage, it regains a number of hit points equal to the lightning damage dealt. So pretty awesome combo for dealing AoE lightning damage, which I just said we get Lightning Bolt at 9th level. And Witch Bolt at 3rd level. Is that the only lower level lightning damage spell? It'd be kind of funny to send your companion out and use Witch Bolt to zap it full of lightning. That's probably a very inefficient way to do it, but it is kind of funny to have like this conduit between you where you're like healing it while it's tanking. But with that little amount of hit points and with his Death Burst, I think you'd rather treat this as something that you want to die and explodes, and then you keep creating new ones versus trying to heal this thing, is what I would think with my already theory crafting. Also does necrotic damage equal to your intelligence modifier. And then at level 5, you can do new things with your companion, where it basically gains extra attack, which is pretty great. Cast spells as though you're in the companion's space, which is cool. So it kind of extends the distance of a lot of maybe touch spells and things. And then at level 9, you get further... Okay, so I love subclasses that, by the way... Oh, Shocking Grasp is a good one, James. I forgot about that one. But you do have to be in melee range to use it, and we just said that this thing explodes. So it could be a bit of a risk. I guess you could run up and grab it, Shocking Grasp, and then run away. That might be pretty funny. I love a subclass, by the way, I've said this countless times, that front loads a cool feature, like your signature subclass thing, and then all of the later upgrades are basically just making that feature better and giving you more options and enhancements and all that. A lot of subclasses are designed that way, and I like that. And this one looks like it's the exact same, where they all are, at least the level 5 and 9 features are all tied to making your corpse buddy stronger. I love the descriptions for the level 9 ones. You can make them bloated, gaunt, or moist. Gaining a swim speed if they're moist. Gaunt, they gain a climb speed. Can climb difficult surfaces. And actually frighten people. And then bloated, they can push people away and add intelligence modifier with the Death Burst. That's awesome. A lot of cool different features for when you'd want different things, which is fun. You've mastered the science of revivification, granting the following benefits. Improved companion and life transfer. You siphon enemy magic companions built to yourself, and you take damage. You can take a reaction to cause your enemy companion to drop to 0 hit points. Okay. Not to level 15, though. So that's cool. That's the new one. That sounds very fun. I think a lot of artificers would be like, fuck yeah, I want to be Dr. Frankenstein. So that's probably the most exciting one out of the bunch here, I would imagine. Again, a lot of these are just updated from... In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they came up with the idea for reanimated artificer, and then we're like, all right, now what are some other like horror-themed ones we can add to one kind of Unearthed Arcana section? And like you said, someone maybe add that into a Ravenloft book, or just some kind of, even if it's just a subclass book, I guess. But I could see them wanting to target Ravenloft again, because obviously Strahd is still like their most popular thing. Bard College of Spirits is the one who has the spirits, the way of using your Bardic Inspiration. So instead of Tales from Beyond, it's now Spirits from Beyond. This one, by the way, is from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, straight up. Has been reworked to improve its action economy and produce more immediate effects. The options on the feature table and revised as well. So this one, you can spend your Bardic Inspiration, kind of a wild magic-y way to do it, because you have to roll on this table, so you don't know exactly what you're going to do. It's still a bonus action, still an expenditure. from the spirit you channel. Then choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. Doesn't say you can't choose yourself. And the spirit immediately takes effect using your spell save DC. I think they're all good things. It's like you heal them, you give them temporary hit points, you allow them to teleport as a reaction. They gain advantage on all D20 tests for the rest of the turn. And what's interesting here is, if you recall, the Bardic Inspiration, I believe, starts as a D6, and then as you level up, becomes a D8, D10, and D12. So this table just starts as a D12, which means you only get the first 6 when you're a low level. But as you level up, you're technically unlocking the later features, which are more complex and more interesting, adding the charmed condition, adding an invisibility feature, a big AoE frighten effect, for example. Although it also, like, you know, the odds are you're still rolling on a table not knowing what you're going to get. So yes, they're, I think, more powerful than the average use of Bardic Inspiration, but because you don't know what you're going to get, that's the balance. But I can see a lot of players who, for example, enjoy Wild Magic, might enjoy this one. And none of these are bad, unlike Wild Magic, which can really kind of run the table between everything. This is all generally powerful stuff. I think you get to choose... Yeah, and I think the way it's worded is you roll the dice first, and then you get to actually choose the target, which also would help, because then you can see, like, okay, which one would benefit the most from this effect. So that, I think that actually helps a lot in terms of the randomness. So it's an interesting subclass that's based basically on that feature, which you get at level 3, level 6. You get additional hit points rolled. Was it the spirit? Oh yeah, that's the Spirit Guardians one. You can modify Spirit Guardians in different ways. You always have it prepared, which makes sense because that's the whole ghostly spirit thing. Cleric Grave Domain. This is from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This one confuses me because there's already, I think, a death domain. Is that right? Am I confusing that with something else? Grave is embody deific forces of death. So you have a whole bunch of necromancy spells. Chill Touch, Rave Enfeeblement, Revivify, Vampire Touch, Raise Dead. It has to do a lot of bloodied creatures, I believe. Your channel divinity, let's see, is what? Don't roll those dice with healing. Instead, use the highest number possible for each die. Okay, when you would restore hit points to a creature at 0 hit points with a spell or channel divinity, you can just use the max. So I guess you max somebody who's fallen to 0 hit points. Or do extra damage to... and do extra damage to people who are bloodied. It's a bonus... Okay, there's the channel divinity. You can curse somebody within 30 feet of yourself. Creature has disadvantage on attacks rolls and saving throws. You can end the curse early to make the attack deal extra necrotic or radiant damage. So pretty good single target debuff, I think. What are the changes? Circle Mortality grants you a small damage bonus against bloodied creatures. So bloodied creatures didn't really exist in 2014, I believe. More versatility in combat relevant spells. An ongoing curse effect in addition to boosting the damage of an attack. Okay, so that Channel Divinity feature got a straight up buff. And Sentinel at Death's Door can trigger on any attack, not just critical hits. When you see a bloodied creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself is hit with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to have that. By the way, I'm doing just an analysis of this whole book now because I think this is fun. But this is the big news. So you can see when 30 feet of yourself hit with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to have that attack's damage. So you have what is that? Uncanny Dodge. If they're, or when you or a bloodied creature. Okay. Yeah, not just critical hits. I don't know. I think it's kind of boring, frankly. But clerics are already super powerful, so they don't need much. Ranger Hollow Warden, I think, is the other brand new one. Draw on the might of ancient wild terrors. Sounds very like witchery. Most ancient and fearsome terrors lurk deep within the old places of the earth. Hollow Wardens venerate and draw power from such beings, transforming themselves into similarly merciless and monstrous guardians that stalk along jagged coastlines across steep mountain crags or other dark and wild places. Okay, so we're like the Warcraft Illidan a little bit, except not necessarily demon-related. But we're transforming ourselves into monsters to hunt the monsters. How thematic. What do we get? Wrathful Smite, Spike Growth, Phantom Steed. Interesting. Some paladin spells. Alright, so the signature feature, Wrath of the Wild. When you cast Hunter's Mark, which again is the main thing that the 2024 Ranger does, right? It was all about Hunter's Mark. They doubled down on that. You transform, gaining the following benefits for the duration of the spell. You get a bonus to your AC equal to your Wisdom modifier, which Ranger Wiz is probably maybe a +2. So that's okay. Your body is wreathed in rotten bark or beastly bristles. Does it have to be rotten bark? It's not bark skin, though, damn it. I guess you get both these benefits, Ancient Armor and the Unnerving Aura. It didn't say you have to choose one. When an enemy starts its turn within a 10-foot emanation originating from you, it makes a Wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, it can take either an action or a bonus action, not both. Your shadow lengthens and twists around you, or you spout unnatural growths like bloody antlers or putrid fangs. It's like become like a half cryptid. Okay, so kind of a very, very weak version of the slow spell, I guess. Can take either an action or a bonus action, not both. Kind of specific. A lot of creatures don't care about their bonus action. It'd be better if they could... Well, maybe it'd be too powerful, I guess, if the slow was like they can't do extra attack or something. But there are... In fact, 2024 did, I think, add a lot more bonus actions for creatures to combo with. But those aren't extra things. Like, you don't have to spend your Hunter's Mark. It says when you cast Hunter's Mark. So you're still doing Hunter's Mark, and then you gain these extra bonuses. So that's just on top of using that spell. But you should not play Hollow Warden if you don't give a shit about Hunter's Mark. In fact, I would argue you probably shouldn't play the 2024 Ranger if you don't give a shit about the Hunter's Mark, because they really double down on that. Hungering Might, you get a bonus to Constitution saving throws equal to your Wisdom modifier. Okay. In addition, once per turn when you hit a creature with an attack roll, while you are transformed using Wrath of the Wild, you regain a number of hit points equal to 1d10 plus your Wisdom modifier, provided you are bloodied when you hit. Okay, those are very specific parameters. So we have to have Hunter's Mark going, which means we're transformed during the duration of the spell, which means, again, I believe, don't we have to concentrate on Hunter's Mark? So all this is concentration-based. I think I complained about that during the Ranger 2024 video. Although we do get a bonus to our Constitution saving throws, which is actually pretty nice for keeping Hunter's Mark up. Regain a number of hit points. And then we basically get a... Once per turn, we get... what's the second wind? 1d10 plus our Wisdom. And it's all Wisdom based, too. So that's interesting. We got to really up our Wisdom if we're going to be the subclass. But we have to be fewer than half hit points. Rotten Vengeance, dedication to Eldritch Forest beings, alters you further. When transforming using Wrath of the Wild, you gain additional benefits. Okay. When a creature fails its save against your Unnerving Art, it also takes necrotic poison or psychic damage equal to your Ranger level, which at level 11, so that's just straight up 11 damage that ignores resistance. That's pretty good. When you hit a creature with an attack roll using a weapon, you can activate the Sap or Slow mastery property in addition to a different mastery property using with that weapon. I haven't seen that in a lot of the subclass features where you like unlock a weapon mastery from a class skill. Okay, I'd have to remember what those do, but that's the fact that they're just on. You don't have to choose; they're just on top of everything you do. I guess makes your transformation pretty dang good. And then level 15, if you drop to 0 hit points while transformed, you don't die. Or don't die outright. You can expend a little 4+ spell slot. Your hit points then instead change to an amount equal to 5 times the level of the spell slot expended. You can auto-revive as long as you keep a spell slot. That's pretty good. Immune to the exhaustion condition. Okay. I could see this being pretty heavily thematic with somebody who hunts creepy stuff and becomes sort of a creepy person and uses those abilities. So I like the RP angle of it. But like I said, you definitely have to want to be using Hunter's Mark all the time. It's pretty much how you're unlocking all your abilities. And I have mixed feelings about how Hunter's Mark works for the Ranger. 2024. Rogue Phantom from Tasha's is embrace death and wield ghostly power. This is where you get like the trinket thing. Tokens of the departed. now provides soul trinkets when you finish a long rest, allowing more reliable usage of the feature's benefits. You don't get it to level 9, though. The rogue is very odd for subclass design, by the way, because you get the level 3 ability, obviously, when you take the subclass, but then you don't get another subclass ability till level 9. So you really have to be careful about trying to front load like a weak version of whatever you're going to get. Because I hate it when you wait till level 9, because let's face it, most campaigns, like by the time you get to 9, you're practically in the end game at that point. So you haven't really gotten to play with any of your cool subclass stuff, unless whatever you get at level 3, which in this case is doing a slight kind of range. In fact, James, I think you had a similar ability with the Kobold Press Rogue. You target a second creature you can see whenever you sneak attack, and you deal basically some damage to that second creature. You are limited a certain number of uses for that, though. When we finish a short or long rest, you can also choose an additional skill proficiency. I guess the ghosts are whispering to you on how to do things. So I would, if I was playing that, I would roleplay it up like I'm straight up summoning a ghost that stabs somebody whenever I do it, and not just like, oh yeah, the damage goes over here. Like really play up the theme of it. But still, you don't get the cool thing, I think, into level 9, which is you gain 2 soul trinkets, tiny objects that last until another long rest. And they give you different abilities. You do sneak attack damage. You can expend a soul trinket, immediately use Wails from the Grave without expending use of that. Okay, it just gives you 1 more use of it, which is fine. It's a cool feature, I guess. When you have at least 1 soul trinket, you have advantage on death saving throws and con saving throws. You can take a magic action to expend a soul trinket, immediately cast the Augury spell. I think that spell might have changed in 2024 also. I forget. Yeah, I'm not too impressed with this one, frankly. I don't know. A rogue who wields ghostly power seems like it's good on paper, but the actual mechanics don't excite me too much. I mean, level 13 sounds awesome. As a bonus action, you assume a spectral form. You become a fucking ghost. You're like Ghost from Thunderbolts, right? You gain a fly speed of 10 feet. You gain incorporeal movement. That's all amazing, but it's not to level 13. How many of us are going to make it to level 13 in a character in a campaign? Like, ugh. So yeah, unfortunately, you don't get any cool stuff till later. Shadow Sorcerer is from Xanathars. Bend darkness and doom to your will. Your magic comes from the Shadowfell. Gain certain spells like darkness, inflict wounds, hunger of Hadar, summon undead, greater invisibility, phantasmal killer. These are all really good spells. Level 3, you basically just gain super dark vision. Although it does say that you can see through your darkness. If a spell you cast creates an area of darkness, you can see normally through that spell's darkness. That's great, but your party still can't. And this is a party-based game, and darkness is gonna fuck up your party pretty bad. I mean, again, you could put on the enemy and be like, all right, now I can see the enemy, but like your party's like, well, fuck you, now it's dark for us. So that's always been a really tricky thing about using those kind of like AoE vision impaired spells. I feel like yes, you could use them from like an escape point of view, or like to stop archers from hitting you, but to get like a combat advantage, it still seems weird from a party-based standpoint. Level 6, you can cast Summon Undead once without a spell slot. That's pretty fancy. I don't remember what the Summon Undead one is. That the one that just scales? I think all the summons actually do conjure creatures. It's the conjure ones that now don't conjure creatures. They just do like a spell effect thematically tied to that creature appearing for a second. You can also cast it where it doesn't require concentration, but then it only lasts for a minute. That seems pretty normal for a lot of these class skills that give you a free summon. Is that really... Is the Shadow... Yeah, I guess Shadowfell is undead themed. Darkness, undeath, and woe with ease. Alright, so you're casting darkness and you're summoning a undead guy in there. Shadow Walk lets you teleport. This is very much like the monk ability, I feel like. If you're in dim light or darkness, you can use a bonus action teleport. And then 18, you get a really cool extra umbral form thing. Where you become ghostly and all that. But it's not till like way higher level. Alright, the Hexblade. Now this one, I have heard the rumor mill saying that they completely nerfed the precious Hexblade. from Xanathar's guide everything. In fact, I'm going to pull up. Let's pull up I'm pulling up my old Xanathar's book because I want to make sure I get this part right because the Hexblade was crazy. If I recall, the Hexblade is what lets you use your charisma modifier instead of strength or dex for your melee attacks. Yeah, called Hex Warrior. When you finish a long rest, you can touch one weapon you're proficient with that's not two-handed. And when you attack with that weapon, you can use your charisma modifier instead of strength and dex for the attack and damage rolls. Which is huge because it allows you to make those interesting like hybrid caster builds or just double down on charisma when it comes to like being a paladin or something. Rather than having, and you could even not have to worry about strength or dex. So that was a very interesting like dip because it was a first level. It took one level of Warlock to unlock that feature. The new Hexblade, of course, because of the way the subclasses work, nothing happens until level 3, which is different. Oh, James, I deemed a game with a player who played this subclass. Sorry, which one? I got ahead of you before I read the tag. You're talking about the Rogue Phantom? I feel like that's the one I talked about the most. I mean, from an RP standpoint, I think it could be fun. Just the mechanics, I think, were a little lacking for me. So the Hexblade Manifest is a new feature allowing you to cast Hex a number of times without a spell slot. It also grants unique ways to interact with your cursed target. Which this was part of the original Hexblade where... Actually, no, it wasn't Hex. It was just, as a bonus action, you chose a creature within 30 feet of you. The target is cursed for a minute. And then that cursed gave bonuses for if you attacked the cursed one. Yeah, I got you. So the new one is just that you can cast Hex without expending a spell slot number of times equal to your charisma modifier. Hex is a pretty popular Hunter's Mark-like spell that Warlocks can employ. And this gives you free uses. And then when you cast Hex, you get a spectral weapon, which orbits the cursed target. So it's nothing about manifesting a blade in your hands or anything. And then once per turn, when you hit a cursed target by your Hex with an attack roll, that's very specifically worded, when you hit a target cursed by your Hex with an attack roll, so it could be a weapon attack, or it could be an Eldritch Blast, because that's an attack roll. You can cause an additional effect, a Draining Slash. They have to make a con save, or they can't make an opportunity attacks, and its speed is halved. Harrowing Blade, have to make a Wisdom save, or the next time the target makes an attack roll, they take necrotic damage equal to your charisma modifier, or Stymieing Mark. Target has disadvantage the next saving throw it makes before the start of your turn. So you get a slight debuff that the poor DM has to keep track of. So you get more uses of Hex and an additional debuff on top of Hex. That's at level 3. Nothing about manifesting a special blade that lets you use charisma. That's like gone. That's a big deal. Level 6, when your target cursed by your Hex drops to 0 hit points, you regain hit points equal to 1d8 plus your charisma modifier. So kind of a version of the Fiend, where you could regain if they fell to 0, and then Inevitable Blade. Inevitable Blade. Once per turn, if you make an attack roll against the target cursed by your Hex and miss, you can deal necrotic damage to that creature equal to charisma modifier. Level 10, when you take damage from the cursed target of your Hex, you can take a reaction to reduce the damage. And level 14, okay, this is when it's actually gets some of the level 1 features from the other one. Any attack roll you make against the target cursed by your Hex scores a critical hit on a 19 or 20, so technically doubles your crit chance. When you use one of your Hexblade's maneuvers, are they called maneuver? I guess they are Hexblade maneuvers. Okay. I just realized that. You can target one additional creature within 30 feet of the cursed target. And taking damage can't break your concentration on Hex. You get that level 14, finally. like immune to concentration on Hex. Someone says, Hex is a must-have for Warlocks, though they have very limited spell slots. But Hunter's Mark is bad for Ranger, but they've had many more spell slots. You know, what's funny is I've played two multi-classed Warlocks, and neither of them used Hex. And then we just had a Warlock, obviously, in my last campaign, and I don't feel like he ever used Hex. So maybe we're just weirdos. Who aren't using it. But yeah, it's similar to the Ranger, where it doubles down on Hunter's Mark, especially the subclass we just went over, the Hollow Warden. This one doubles down on Hex. So the Hex Blade, more Hex than Blade, but I take it where like, oh, it just increases the Hex and now makes it so the Blade orbits the Hex target and allows you to do a lot of single target debuffs. So I guess I have to look more about what Hex does, and does Hex still let you chain, like keep it going and change targets around. This does give you more uses of it, which is nice, because that is true. That's a big bummer about using Hex, is that you only have so many freaking spell slots that you can do as a Warlock, so it's pretty limiting. And you really only want to target somebody who's going to be around for like a couple rounds, right? Kind of like a mini boss style. I don't know if it's worth using. It's like minions, so that's a tricky one. I don't know. I do feel like the original Hexblade was a little broken because everybody took that multi-class dip to get that effect. Whereas here, they're just like, well, let's just make Hex cooler. Hex should have had free castings on the base Warlock like Ranger. Yeah. It's interesting that you have to take Hexblade to get your free hexes, to now get your free hexes, which is, I think it's scaled the same. You get free uses equal to your charisma modifier per long rest, which is like probably additional 3 or 4, and later on maybe 5 uses of Hex. That's pretty powerful. Another Warlock one, Undead Patron. This one is also from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. We gotta be getting a new Ravenloft book, right? Grave Touch allows your spells and attacks to ignore resistant necrotic damage. Necrotic Husk, no longer a reaction, use a secondary feature. I need to wrap this up. Okay, this is the last one. Good, because I spent way too long on this. This one is Defy Death for Profane Power, where you're basically following like a lich or something. Form of Undead, you get Frightful Avatar. You just get a straight up avatar bonus action thing you can transform into still. Immune to the frightened condition, and make them frightened of you. Get a bunch of undead spells. Themed necrotic stuff. Yeah, it seems to fit like maybe the one missing thing from Warlock, which is undead shit. All right, it'd be interesting to rank these. I think we all have to put Reanimator at the top. I think that's still like the coolest one and the most interesting, and certainly the newest one. I was not terribly impressed with the Ranger, even though that's the other new one. What else is looking pretty good? Shadow Sorcerer is pretty good, I think, although Darkness is I do like the Spirit Bard a lot. I know a lot of folks don't like to roll a table and have the randomness, but I think a lot of players do like that. So I would probably put that one pretty high up there as well. That is the Unearthed Arcana of Horror subclasses. They are available now to peruse. Download the PDF at D&D Beyond, and I fully expect this to hit some kind of Ravenloft theme, maybe a Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft style book in possibly later this year. I would, if I was the boss of D&D, I'd be like, all right, go guys, let's get this out. This fall, we're gonna put out Strahd 2, Strahd Harder, and we're just gonna double down on that shit. Curse of Strahd 2. Let's make it happen. All right, finally moving on to another news post. We've got the Heroes of Might and Magic Tabletop RPG has officially hit Kickstarter. I talked about this either a week or 2 weeks ago whenever the Quick Start rules hit, but now it has officially hit Kickstarter. I, of course, carry a big torch for this franchise. I love the video games to death. The Tabletop RPG uses the 2D20 system, which is used for a couple different systems and games, and it kind of combines a adventure with a you still have your army. So they basically broke it down, like I read through the Quick Start rules. They broke it down between you as your heroes go on like scouting expeditions and make skill checks and stuff. that will then affect the later phase, which is I forget what they call it, but just like armies clash phase or something, where you basically figure out what you need to go, where you need to go, and gather all your intel and maybe get some magic items and stuff. And then you get a chance to like rest back at the tavern, and then you go on with your armies, and you've got a full armies, and those all have their certain stats with how they work. And they really integrate the way that the units work, and the fact that there are different amounts of units, like you're clashing whole armies together, and you're making skill checks, and the failure results in your armies becoming dwindled. And the quick start rules do come with a free adventure that you can look at, but they're available for free as a PDF. It's on Drive-Thru RPG, which is what I alerted to everyone, whatever that was, a week or two ago. I haven't actually watched this video. Let's watch this video. This is from Modifius, which is a RPG company based in the UK, I believe.
As the war rages across the continent, no kingdom remains free from the aftershock of titanic battles and political upheavals. It is a time of flame and ambition.
I want to go back to that picture.
Time of might and magic.
Oh, that's the thing.
Create your heroes, gather your troops, and immerse yourself in the world of the iconic computer game like never before. Step back into the legendary land of Enroth and embark on epic adventures in the first tabletop role-playing game based on heroes of might and magic.
That was so much nostalgia for this. Specifically the third one, I believe, is they're basing off of. You know, I realized something about myself. I really like Dragonlance as a setting, and I love Heroes of Might and Magic, and both of them are fantasy genres about warfare. So maybe that's what I really enjoy, as like a subgenre of fantasy, is like giant warfare between fantasy creatures. It is currently beat its goal within the first day. It just hit Kickstarter, I think, literally today. It's got over 500 backers. Of course, its goal was only 45,000, which is, this is converted to US. Relatively low, but it is currently sitting at 57,000. You can get the core rule book, the PDF, for about $20 US. And the estimated delivery is December 2025. It looks like the stretch goal is going to cost you like $30. I don't know what the stretch goals are. Where's the physical one? Copy the core rulebook and hardcover and PDF is about $50. So that's, assuming there's a couple hundred pages, that's in line for like a single giant rule book for running the game and everything. Official tabletop role-playing game based on Heroes of Might and Magic: The Restoration of Arathia from Modifius Entertainment. Licensed from Ubisoft. If I were to run a D&D game, I would probably base it out of the Might and Magic. I think I mentioned this last time. The Might and Magic games versus the Heroes of Might and Magic games, though, because Might and Magic games were actual like open-world RPGs with stories and shit. The Heroes games were turn-based strategy tactical games. They did have campaigns, I guess, but I don't know, you didn't have much of a story involved. You had like maps you would play on. You're a commander of an army. Cool rulebook is everything you fully immerse yourself. 8 factions, playable lineages, 2d20 system, which I think I mentioned that before. You roll your skills is like your skill plus your attribute, and then you try to roll to get under that. So the higher your stuff is, the more likely you are to succeed. The reward tiers are all named after the units from the Castle faction. Pikeman, Marksman, Griffin, Crusader, Zealot, Champion, and Archangel. Planned schedule is going to be the rulebook fulfillment for the PDF is December of this year, and then the physical fulfillment, if you want a physical book, is not till May of next year. I would always take these release dates with a grain of salt, by the way, and kind of average out to adding a couple months to each one. There's the image. That's awesome. Necropolis, which is a bunch of... Which very much... God, I have so much nostalgia for this. Yeah, there's like the vampire unit. There's the fucking wraith unit. There's the lich. There's like the dreadlord. And you've got a bunch of like zombies and skeletons. They're like writing a missive. That's amazing. Credit on the table. I love it. We've got a full campaign, Echoes of the Silence, collected and printed hardcover book. If they reach 75,000 euro. Music of Antigorich and the Enemies of Arathia PDF. Lower story. Okay, so you get more content, I guess. Oh man, I love the music too. The music in the Hero series is so fucking good. So fucking good. That's awesome. The big question is, will somebody like me who plays RPGs and is a huge fan of this actually back this? And that is a good question. Because I have to ask myself, you know, could I convince... At this point, do you have a VTT integration? And I'm not seeing that anywhere here. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not ever going to come to a virtual tabletop, but that's what would be my primary buy-in, I think, is if it's got VTT integration, because at this point, pretty much everything I play is going to be via something like Roll20. So without that, I don't see this as much of a pull other than having like the book on my shelf, I guess, which I don't know if you can see behind me, but I've literally got the Heroes of Might and Magic board game from Archon Studios that came out like a year or two ago. I've played it like 3 times. It's super, you know, wieldy and has a ton of units and stuff, but I do love having it. It's cool and nostalgic, but it doesn't actually get used as much as I would have preferred. And I feel like this would be kind of a similar situation and is ultimately a book. So maybe I'd go in for the PDF just to have that access. But I don't know. I'd almost rather just see somebody convert stuff from the Might and Magic series into 5th edition. I think would be also very interesting. But yeah, it's on Kickstarter right now. Ends in 30 days. So that'll take us to the beginning of June at some point. And that's, yeah, I guess so. I had the open window on YouTube, I guess, for the video that I just watched in the smart window. All right. Moving on. Very last thing is PAX East is happening this weekend. Raise your hand if you're going to PAX East. I am not. I've never been to PAX East. It's in the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. I'm pretty sure it used to be in like March or April in past years. I thought May seems pretty late. Also, it's Mother's Day weekend this weekend, which feels like a weird weekend to do a gaming convention on. Drag your moms to go be part of a bunch of crowds and games. I was a huge fan of PAX South when that was a thing. COVID actually killed PAX South. But I went for like 5 years as a media journalist and covered a lot of stuff at PAX. It was a really fun experience. The closest one to me was actually in Texas. And I liked it a lot. So I would be very interested in going to other PAX conventions. Although, honestly, after COVID, it took me like years to even want to be around that many people. But now I think it's been enough where I'm like, all right, I could probably go to another one at this point. In terms of stuff they got there, I know Larian Studios is going to be here. I don't know if they're going to I don't think they have anything else to show other than just Baldur's Gate 3. But I mean, fucking Baldur's Gate 3 is cool. Wizards of the Coast is definitely here. In fact, I think they're included under a featured exhibitor. There's the Pokemon Company. Yeah, there they are. Wizards of the Coast has a major booth here, so obviously they'll do there's RPG games, D&D you can literally play, or they've got a bunch of vendors here. I mean, you all know what gaming conventions are, but PAX is honestly, I think, has gotten to be one of the better ones. I feel like, I mean, they've at this point there's PAX West, which is the original from Seattle. Literally 20 years old, I think, at this point. PAX East, I think, started next, which is in Boston on the East Coast. There's a PAX Australia that I think is still going on. There's a PAX. There's no longer a PAX South, which used to be the one in Texas, which is a huge bummer. Which is San Antonio, which is an awesome place. And then there is a PAX Unplugged, which is purely the non-video game PAX, which is really interesting and probably the one I'd be most interested in, frankly, at this point, is in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, the time... So I believe PAX West is always in August-ish. PAX East is... I thought was in... I guess it's still spring, but I thought it was early spring. Now May is really later. Australia, I completely forgot when that one is. And then... Unplugged is the biggest bummer about Unplugged, and the reason we haven't really gone yet is because it's like always around Thanksgiving, and my family actually hosts Thanksgiving for my extended family, so it's always a big busy thing for us, and it just seems like a shitty time to do a convention. It's either like the weekend before or after Thanksgiving every year, which is annoying here in the U.S. But Philadelphia seems like a fun place to go to a gaming convention. There's some cool panels and stuff to go see. A lot of D&D things. There's an Eberron sneak peek for the upcoming book Forge of the Artificer. The first public sneak peek of the new Eberron book coming out this summer. And a Learn to Play. Sit down with a 90-minute session covering the basics of D&D. That's pretty fun to do in a whole panel. All materials are provided, so bring yourself prepared for adventure. All right, that could be a cute way of teaching people how to play. People are like just tangentially interested. D&D previews A Village Called Hamlet and Darkness in Nulb. I don't know anything about this. Register in person to play these Legends of Greyhawk preview adventures for characters 1st to 4th level. 3 tables of each game will be available with 6 players per table. Interesting. Village Called Hamlet. Okay, help me out. Where Hamlet is from a classic module. I know that, right? I don't remember which one, but I swear this is from an old adventure module. One of you is going to tell me in a second. Caravans are long overdue and whispers. I don't know if this itself is an updated module or if it's just using the name. Caravans are long overdue and whispers of danger drift through every tavern. A call for aid in Hamlet arrives as a dark shadow creeps in ancient and forgotten places. Once more, will you brave the shadows? And then there's another one called D&D preview. Or sorry, Darkness in Nulb, which I don't recognize that name. Nulb is a ramshackle hovel of huts and tents, nestled beside the only bridge over Iamrid's Run, known for shady characters and even shadier deals. It's a perfect place to gather information on those who wish to remain hidden. However, the darkness is reluctant to give up its secrets easily. We uncover the truths hidden within. Okay, that sounds much more like a investigation, social mystery adventure. That's interesting. Huh. Yeah, Lumpy's got the same idea. Wasn't Village of Hamlet the first published module? I don't know. I just remember Hamlet specifically is from something. All right, I'm gonna Google this real quick on a different window. Oh yeah, the Village of Hamlet is a 24-page adventure module for first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, released in 1979. Shout out to Smashing Pumpkins. Okay, Hamlet is a small town noted for the role it's played in adventures fighting the Temple of Elemental Evil in Greyhawk. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Although this is Village of Hamlet, so this is straight up like the... That's fascinating. Okay. So we are getting more Greyhawk stuff then. I guess. Preview adventures. This is like maybe stuff that's gonna be on like D&D Beyond, or is it gonna be a part of something else? Are we getting like a... What the fuck is Legends of Greyhawk? Alright, I need to make a whole news buzz about this. What is this from? Legends of Greyhawk set in the world of Greyhawk. Okay, Okay, let's see. This is from January. How did I fucking miss this? Newest organized play campaign. Okay, so if you want to play like Adventurers League stuff, that's what Legends of Greyhawk is. Detail in the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. All right. So it's their new Adventurers League stuff. So you can just preview the new ones of that. I feel like Greyhawk was, I mean, it is just the traditional D&D setting, right? It's like the original. It's like Tomb of Horrors was Greyhawk. Temple of Elemental Evil was Greyhawk. Mordenkainen was Greyhawk. Vecna is Greyhawk. Like, I know that much, and I don't know much. And at some point, Forgotten Realms became the one that they doubled down on in 5th edition. So it is nice that we're getting some more Greyhawk stuff. But it seems like it's purely, at least right now, in the just for like Adventurers League and what do they call it? Organized play. All right, well, that's the whole thing, is you can apparently play some new versions of those in the tabletop hall. So yeah, just, I guess, new organized play stuff is all that was. I thought those were previewing like new adventures and stuff. So yeah, that's PAX East going on right now. Starts today, actually. I believe badges are still available, which is kind of not a good sign. Badges are still available when the actual thing starts, but there you go. I do like, I have not been to PAX East specifically, but I do like PAX as a gaming convention, and certainly Wizards of the Coast likes it as well, considering they're a featured sponsor. It's interesting they're a featured sponsor in PAX East. I would think PAX West, since they're based in Seattle, or forget where in Washington, but Spokane maybe, would be their main like hub for doing it. But they also have been very, tied together with the Penny Arcade folks forever, obviously doing Acquisitions Incorporated and all that stuff. All right, folks, I think that is going to do it for the news of the week. Thank you so much for joining me. By the way, for patrons, we've got exciting stuff happening. Tonight is actually session 0 of our next big patron D&D campaign. So I will see you all then for that. And as always, thank you to all the patrons for helping to support this channel and make these live streams happen. Shout out to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Dan, Brennan, Genocide Roleplayer, Christopher, Jory, oh my goodness. Joe, Will, Thomas, Dan, Brandon, Genocide, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lovey Spodes, Warden, Harold, Edamona, LLC, Tom, Eating the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Shay, Chris, and Matthew, and gold patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Desert Lounge, Drone, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott Rivers, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark, a rare complete off-ramp where I had to just exit and get on the highway for that. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see patrons, mini patrons for tonight's patron D&D campaign session 0. The rest of you I will see tomorrow for more Alien RPG goodness.